for more on what is happening in the Borgu Local Government Area. We are joined now by a journalist in Nigeria, and that is Adesuwa, to find out from him exactly what is happening. Adesuwa Giwa Osagi. Adesuwa, can you just give us the latest on the attacks?
Good evening. Thank you for having me on. Now, what we saw on the 14th to the 15th of February in the Borgu Local Government Area of Niger State is a coordinated attack in three different villages where at least 26 to 32 people have been killed. Now, Borgu Local Government Area is part of the Borgu Emirate. It actually used to be a part of Kwara State until 1991 and is now a part of Niger State. It also features the Borgu Game Reserve, which is part of the Kainji National Forest. Now, the Kainji National Park, rather, which has been used as a base for terrorist groups to launch their attacks on different communities, both in Niger State and in Kwara State.
And just if we could get a sense of how many villages were hit, and as you mentioned that it's part of the Borgu local government, but you mentioned that it used to be part of Kwara, and Kwara has been where we've seen a slew of attacks as well.
Yes, so to help understand the picture better, Borgu Game Reserve is part of Kainji National Park. That park stretches through both Kwara and Niger states. There are basically three key forests to think about when it comes to terrorism in Nigeria. So although we do have borders in terms of one is Kwara State or one is Niger State, this park and these forests spread through both states. And terrorist organizations, even some foreign organizations like Lakurawa, have gone into these parks and used them and used the forest as a safe haven. As of 2021, the Controller General of our national parks said at least 1,000 acres or hectares of land was being used by terrorists as enclaves. So to understand what is going on in Borgu local government area of Niger State, it's also to understand what's going on in Kwara State, because these attacks are essentially being launched from the same base, which is the Kainji National Park.
Able to tell us about the death toll at this point, and if there are any reliable figures as to how many people have been injured, abducted, and who they are, etc.
So the figures right now say about 26 to 32 people have been abducted. We're getting different, have been killed rather. We're getting different figures on who has been killed and who has been abducted. To understand also that this is not the first attack on Borgu local government area this year. There have been multiple attacks on this local government area, as well as attacks on security outposts within the area. There are also different types of kidnappings and abductions. You do have abductions for ransom, but you also have these terrorists abducting women to force them into marriages. So right now it's unclear who has been abducted for ransom, who has been abducted for marriage, and how many they are, as authorities seem to be trying to keep these numbers close to their chests. But the numbers we're hearing right now is that 26 to 32 people have been killed over the weekend.
And as you said, the profile of those responsible could vary, whether it's outright violence or it's jihadist groups or, as you say, it's banditry. Has anybody claimed responsibility for this attack?
So far, no one has claimed responsibility, but we must understand that even when we use the word banditry, what we are really describing is organized terrorism. Again, these attacks are coordinated. They're from similar groups who work within, networks, whether it's Al-Qaeda, funded Boko Haram, or ISIS, or funded ISWAP, or aligned rather than funded. These groups are all Lakurawa, which came to Nigeria through Nigeria's border with Niger and Sokoto state and formed bases in the Kainji National Park. These are different groups and they don't always claim responsibility, particularly if they're not the bigger recognized terror organizations, but they do operate in a similar way across board.
Now, I understand, according to reports, that community members in these villages have complained about lack of security force visibility. Is this the case? And what of the reports suggesting that American American help is in the offing. The United States has offered to assist the Nigerian state with this type of activity. Has that, actually happened?
Well, American troops have arrived in Nigeria already. We are being told that they will not be taking part in active combat, but rather will be providing the Nigerian troops with training and intelligence assistance. In terms of security support in Borgu Local Government Area, on the 3rd of January, there was an attack there that killed 30 people. The next day, there was also an attack on a police or security outpost there. We are now seeing attacks again, of course, just this weekend. And so, in terms of security, yes, security in that area is definitely a huge issue, and it's a huge issue across the region. It's an under-policed and under-secured area. It's also very odd because if I don't know if you know this, but the president of Nigeria, Bola Tinubu, is known as Jagaban. He's actually the Jagaban of the Borgu Emirate. He's supposed to be the head of the warriors. It's a traditional title. So I do think there is some extra significance here that Borgu keeps getting hit. The president is the Jagaban of Borgu.
What does that mean? Because it's a very interesting fact to, highlight. Would that be almost a taunt of his lack of capacity, not only as head of state, but the fact that he has ramped up deployment of security forces across Nigeria to deal with the insecurity? And also, more importantly, is there a greater plan to deal with the displacement, the trauma, the social and food insecurity as a result of these attacks?
Well, one would hope there is a greater plan, but right now we're not necessarily seeing results. What we've been seeing is piecemeal activity in terms of trying to secure the nation. And you, very importantly, you mentioned food security, because not only are farmers being chased from their farms, but these terrorists are causing lasting ecological damage to our national reserves and our national parks. When it comes to taunting, if there is some symbolic significance to the fact that the president is the Jagaban of Borgu, I do think that that is a part of it. But we have seen some arrests made and some trials in 2024. There was a trial actually of a terrorist, over 100 terrorists gotten from the Kainji National Park. So we've seen some of these trials and some of these arrests, but it doesn't seem to have made a dent. And rather, I think since the Christmas Day bombings that were by the United States, it does seem that there has been an escalation in Nigeria of these terrorist and banditry attacks.
Well, we do thank you so much for your time and the latest update on what is happening in the Borgu Local Government District. That is in Nigeria, north of Nigeria, villages near Niger State, where there has been another spate of attacks on villages with people being killed and others being abducted. Adesuwa Giwa Osagi is a journalist out there in Nigeria, bringing us the latest on that.